this is just a quick video that's going to show some do's and some don'ts with clay, and this can be used for all of your projects. The first thing we're talking about is attaching two pieces together. Don't try to just squish two pieces together and hope that they will stick. This is not going to work. The clay will start to dry and the pieces will fall apart. So you want to make sure when you do go to attach two pieces together, you remember to slip and score. And we say scratch, scratch, water attached. That means I'm going to scratch the surface of the one sphere that I'm using here to attach to the other. I'm going to do the same thing on the other surface that I'm planning to attach using my cross hatching method. And then I'm going to get a little bit of my slip, which we're just going to use a little bit of water on each piece. And then I can attach. And I like to use a little bit of a twisting motion that kind of helps to really secure those two pieces together. If you forget to do this, there is a good chance that your pieces will fall apart. Now, small pieces you can get away with. Bigger pieces like these, we want to remember to scratch and attach. For the scratching and attaching, again on the don't side, is I see some people will use these really light lines to do their scratching, and that's just simply not deep enough. The other thing that people will do is they will scratch really, really deep into the clay. Too far. So you want to remember when you're scratching and attaching, you don't scratch too far into the clay or too lightly. Another thing is instead of adding a little bit of water, I see people who have tried to pour water on. Don't do that. You're going to soak your clay and it's going to become like a muddy mess when you're trying to attach your pieces together. The next thing is when you make a mistake and you need to squish your pieces back together. I see where people will just start squishing it back and forth in their hands. They'll start taking the clay and ripping it apart and just layering it one thing on top of another. And that's a don't, because you can cause air bubbles, which will blow up in the kiln. If you make a mistake with your clay, roll it back into a ball, tap it on the table a few times just to kind of start getting some of those air bubbles out of it. And then you want to do a kneading method with your clay where you're just using your palm of your hand to kind of push it flat and you're rolling it back into each other. And then once you've done that a couple of times, you can go back to putting it back in a ball and tapping it on the table. That's just going to help make sure that there's no air bubbles and you don't end up making a mistake when you go to create a piece and an air bubble sneaks in and then it blows up in the kiln. So if you need to start over, don't forget to properly tap it on the table so it's a fresh piece to use. Next, I have a little mini pinch pot that I've made and a ball of clay that I'm going to attach on top of my pinch pot. So earlier we talked about the proper way to attach clay pieces together is to scratch, scratch, water, and attach. So I'm going to be using my slipping and scoring here, scratching both surfaces, the ball that I'm attaching onto the pinch pot here, using a little bit of my water, and then I am attaching together, using that little bit of a twisting motion. Why I'm going to place it over here in the don't to begin with is if you have a thicker piece of clay on top, like this here, maybe it's the head of a character or a cherry on top of ice cream, you want to make sure you give it room to breathe. What I mean by that is you are going to take your pick and you're going to poke a hole that goes into that sphere up top, that ball up top, to just allow some of the air and the moisture to escape out of there. It's going to help your piece dry quicker. Same for if you have really thick walls, pieces that look really, really thick or have wide buildup of clay, you might want to poke some extra holes in there. Don't take a pinch pot and close it up and trap a giant air bubble on the inside. This is making a air pocket essentially, and when we go to put this in the kiln, the air that you have trapped inside is going to find its way out and it's going to blow out and it's going to blow up your piece. So don't do that. If for some reason you like the piece that you've made, you absolutely can't part with it, poke a few holes, give it that breathing room. Now there is a place for the air to escape out so it won't blow up. So if you need to save a piece that has an air bubble, give it some holes, give it room to breathe. Thickness can also be tricky in the kiln when it goes to drying. One, if it's really thick, it's going to take forever to dry, so try to thin your pieces out. Don't leave them too thick. Squish them down, make them a little thinner. Also, having thick pieces can hold a lot of moisture. If it goes into the kiln too soon, it can blow up. So we want to make sure we have some skinnier pieces that's safer to use. And the last thing that we want to talk about is don't leave your piece unnamed. No name, no fame. If you do not have any part of your piece that has your name or your class code on it, I'm not going to know who it belongs to. So do take the time to use your toothpick, your dowel, needle tool to scratch in your name on your piece so it's easy to read. And then also your class code. I'll be telling you your class code so we can easily assign groups and we know which piece belongs to what class. For my koala head here as an example, I just carved my name underneath. I could have done it on the lips here. I wouldn't have done it on the outside of my koala because I wouldn't distract from my piece. But on my owl example here, there is no name whatsoever on this piece, so we would have no idea who it belongs to. So make sure to mark your pieces with your name and your class code so we can know who it belongs to and it can be returned back to you.